Welcome to the Red Fern Farm Virtual Field Day. It is very good to see you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Liz Colby. I'm with Practical Farmers of Iowa. Accompanying me behind the scenes and providing technical support is Celise Christie. We will shortly be broadcasting live with Kathy Dice and Tom Wahl of Red Fern Farm in Wapello, Iowa, to learn about one of the newer crops to their farm, honeyberry or haskap. But first, like an old movie, we start with the credits at the top. We'd like to thank our major sponsors for their support of our virtual field day season. Their support helps make this virtual field day season possible, which features over 60 virtual field days. And guess what? You can attend all of them free of charge on our Facebook page and through Zoom. So thank you to our sponsors. Practical Farmers of Iowa is a farmer-led nonprofit based out of Ames. We specialize in farmer-to-farmer knowledge sharing and farmer-led research with a mission to equip farmers to build resilient farms and communities. All are welcome at PFI, and we invite you to learn more about our organization and access our vast collection of resources at practicalfarmers.org. This virtual field day will run until 1:05. If you have questions for Tom and Kathy during the field day, please type them into the comment box on Facebook, and I'll do my best to relay your questions to them during our discussion. And at the conclusion of this event, please give us your feedback via the online survey, and we'll post that link in the comment box. Virtual events are new to us this year, and with your help, we're excited to learn and improve how to do these throughout the summer. So let's go live to Red Fern Farm.
Hi,
Tom
Liz.
and Kathy. Great to see you. Thank you for joining us today. I know you have a lot to share, so I'm going to go ahead and mute myself for now and let you tell us about your farm and get us started.
Well, welcome to our home at Red Fern Farm. We're a small farm. We purchased land back in '86. We got about 55 acres of extremely rugged, steep ground, mostly forested. And we started practicing or trying out some agroforestry practices on that ground. But fighting deer, trying to get mowers up and down the hills, it was quite a struggle. But then a neighbor who had planted some chestnuts following recommendations from us, moved away, and they offered about 30 acres that they had, some of which was planted chestnuts, to us to purchase. So we were like, yes! And so we purchased that slightly rolling ground, and on that we have been integrating a variety of perennial crops. Chestnuts are our big cash cow out there, but we've also been successfully selling through U-Pick pawpaws, persimmons, heart nuts, Asian pears, hazels, quite a variety of stuff. And one of our new things, started planting 2 or 3 years ago, is honeyberries or haskaps.
But we are not doing U-Pick on those yet.
Not yet, no. We have been harvesting about a handful of berries last year. This year it was like 3 or 4 handfuls of berries. So you'll be seeing pictures of our small bushes. We are just starting the experiment with haskap, but we wanted to share with you what it's like and the best growing practices that we know of so far. We're located in southeast Iowa. We're more than an hour away from any large cities, the largest being like Iowa City, Quad Cities. They're all an hour away. Closer towns are only like 2,000 to 3,000 people. But we managed to do a very successful U-Pick because people are so fascinated and desirous of getting to pick things like pawpaws and chestnuts. They will travel 1 to 4 hours to come to our farm. So we're planning on tying into that and having honeyberries being part of our U-Pick in the future. Anything you want to add to that, Tom?
Yeah, we actually started planting honeyberries about 25 years ago. At that time, the only thing available was wild type bushes. And although the berries did taste very good, they were kind of sparse on the bush, and they were about the size and shape of a grain of rice. But it seemed like it took about a half an hour to pick a teaspoonful of berries. And because of that, I kind of lost interest in them, and I neglected them, and they died away from heavy competition from brome grass.
So we're going to go on to that video that Celise is going to pick up, and you'll actually see how we're growing them and harvesting them. So we'll let Celise get our video going.
Yep, there we go.
And there's a shot of some of the berries we just harvested this year.
Okay, we're experimenting with honeyberries, and a few of the things we like about them is that they're tolerant of our normal soil conditions. They don't need acidic soil like blueberries. They're also shade tolerant. We're going to test to see how well they produce in shade, although the bushes survive in shade just fine. And they're superior to aronia berries in the fact that they actually taste good. Okay, how's the flavor on the blizzard?
Let's see. That's a fully ripe one. That's pretty good. Even though they're not slightly tart, they're sweet. That is a very good flavor. I definitely get that black raspberry flavor in there. Yeah, these are good. I think we're having a little digital problem.
Yeah, it looks like there's a little pause in the video here. Well, I wonder, we'll let Celise, oh,
That's
yes, we
right.
got it.
As you can see, oust is pretty effective at weed control. This was applied approximately a year ago and is doing a pretty good job at keeping weeds away from the base of these young honeyberry bushes. Oust is used as a very low rate, 1 ounce per acre, and lasts for 1 whole year under normal rainfall conditions. It controls a broad spectrum of grass and herb and broadleaf weeds, although there are a few weeds that it does not control, including mare's tail and redroot pigweed.
And you
We don't include the grass.
Yeah.
Exclude the grass.
I'm trying.
Try harder.
Kathy, I wonder, maybe Celise, can we pause the video for just a second? I want to ask about some of the varieties you've planted.
Right to you.
Thank you, Celise. I wanted to ask about some of the varieties you've planted. And Celise, can you pause the video for us?
It's actually pretty good to just let it run because seeing it is as good as anything. But
Okay.
so we've gotten a lot of variety. Well,
Are you asking for a list of varieties that we're trying?
Well,
or
sure.
what we recommend?
What you recommend and what you've tried.
Okay. As I was starting to say, we planted them 25 years ago, but they were just wild type. In the last 10 to 15 years, there's been a great deal of breeding work done. Some at the University of Oregon by Dr. Maxine Thompson, some at the University of Saskatchewan in Saskatoon by Dr. Bob Boers, and then by some private individuals in Arkansas. And we're currently trialing 13 different varieties, and we have some preliminary results. Very preliminary, but I do have some recommendations. Well, from Arkansas, we're trialing varieties called Blue Banana, Giant Hearts, Strawberry Sensation, Honey Crop, and Honey Joy. From the University of Oregon, we're trialing Solo and Maxi. And from University of Saskatchewan, we're trialing a Boreal Beast, Boreal Blizzard, Boreal Beauty, Aurora, and Honeybee. And also there's a commercial cultivar from Japan that we're trialing that's selling in this country under the trade name Pagoda. We also tried another Japanese variety called going under the trade name Hokkaido. We planted it twice and it died out twice. So we gave up on that one.
So what would you recommend at this
I was
point?
about to get to that. The ones I like best by a pretty wide margin are all the ones that come from University of Saskatchewan. Boreal Blizzard, Boreal Beast, Boreal Beauty, Aurora, and Honeybee. The Boreal ones are late flowering and late ripening, and Aurora and Honeybee are mid-season ripening. You want to avoid early season honeyberries because they tend to flower too early before honeybees or other bees are flying, so they don't get well pollinated and tend to not set good crops, if any at all. I've been rather underwhelmed by the Arkansas and Oregon, and also by Pagoda. But the Blizzard, Beauty, and Beast especially have very large berries, many times over, many orders of magnitude bigger than the wild type, and 2 to 3 times bigger than the Arkansas and Oregon berries.
The berries you saw me eating were the Boreal Blizzards, right?
Yeah, their
Okay.
flavor is the best, and they also seem to be much more productive than the other
And
varieties.
Tom, are those available from Honeyberry USA?
Yes, all the Oregon and Saskatchewan varieties are available from Honeyberry USA in Bagley, Minnesota.
We
And
recommend those folks.
that's the source we recommend.
Honeyberry USA.
Fantastic. Well, I'm seeing in the comment box that people want to see some more of the harvest. So Celise, let's start up that video again, and maybe the audio and picture have caught up a little bit. So let's go ahead and roll the video.
This is fun. We actually had a smaller
Okay.
pool that we had
See
set
how
up
this
like
works.
this too, but we had to use the big one. That's the shaking saw with a special impact of shaking the root.
And so how
It
is
does a
that
nice
better than
job.
just grabbing hold of the little bush and shaking it by hand?
It isn't necessarily, but on a bigger bush. This can do a bigger bush than what you could with your hand. Okay.
Now tilt that half of the swimming pool so that you collect the berries, James. Those are nice sized berries.
Yep.
I heard more than 2 berries hit, I thought. Yep, there's more in James's part. Okay, and so are there still berries on the bush?
Yes.
And are we assuming those are
And-
not ripe?
Yeah, this is probably not ripe.
Okay, that's a really good example one. Go ahead and pull it off because it looks ripe. Okay, hold
Okay.
still. Hold still. put it back in the sunlight, please. So it looks ripe on the outside. Now go ahead and bite it in half. And then put it back in the sunshine.
Looks right. Yeah. It's still pretty green on the inside.
We're getting a hint of green. Yep.
They're ripe when there's no
That's
green
one
on
of
the
the best ways
inside.
to judge
Okay.
ripeness.
Thank you.
Look inside.
All right, James, go ahead and show us how fast you think you can get this picked instead of setting up the pool for a small bush. And this is a sparsely leaved bush, so it's pretty easy to see the berries, right?
Mm-hmm.
And are you kind of judging ripeness by how easy they pull off?
Yep.
Okay.
Even ones that, even if they're darkly colored, they resist.
Okay. So if they're resisting a little bit, you're leaving them on the
like
bush?
This one here, see, it looks like it's ripe, but
Okay. And can you actually pick that one? Bite it in half and let's see if it was ripe or not, or how close it was to being ripe. Now bite it in half. And then,
got a nice little green glob sticking up there for you.
can you move that to the sun a little bit more? I'm having a little trouble focusing on it. There, I think I showed it. Okay, thank you.
So you can see most of our bushes are pretty small.
There's a lot on this bush that's not quite ripe yet.
What's the variety?
Where would the label
It'd be written on the north side of the stake,
North side of the stake.
the bamboo stake.
It says LOS?
SOL. Solo.
Solo. This one's solo. So apparently solo is a late ripening one.
Correct.
And oh, that one was slightly underripe. That one's slightly underripe. But very tasty. Okay. So these are Blizzard. Nice shape. These apparently ripened earlier than the solo. They're coming off easy. In fact, I've had a couple drop on the ground. They've got great size on them. And again, we kind of judge when it's time to go pick honeyberries when strawberries are ripening up. So Blizzard apparently are ready about when the early glow strawberries are ready. And our early glows have been ripe for about a week.
We ended up eating most of the berries we picked that day.
And so Lise, why don't we pause the video for a second before we talk about the sheep and the honeyberries, and talk about the harvest a little more in the maturity of the bushes. So actually, I have some honeyberries because I went harvesting, and the information about when to know when they're ripe is good because, as you can see, Lise, if you want to put my video up for a second. I managed to pick some that were tiny and some that were very large, and
Wow.
from the same bush, and what I assume to be the same variety, or bushes next to each other that I would have assumed were the same variety. So, but they've kept in my fridge really well, and they were also on small bushes. People are interested in the reciprocating saw. What kind of attachment did you have on the end of that while you were using it to shake the bushes?
It was just a homemade device. I attached a metal rod with hooks on the end to the saw blade, and then just put the saw blade in there and use the metal rod with hooks to shake the bushes.
So it would pull and push on the bush as it shook back and forth.
Okay. The first time I watched the video, I thought surely they aren't cutting all the branches off of their honeyberry bush to harvest them. So I looked closer and saw that hook. So people can rewind this video later and take a closer look at that hook attachment. And then how big do you expect these bushes to get, and what kind of yield are you expecting off of them?
It depends on the varieties. Some varieties only get to be up to about 2 feet tall, and the largest ones get up to 8 feet tall, but most of the ones we're working with seem to get up between 5 and 6 feet tall, about like a mature high bush blueberry.
Okay. And do you want to say anything more?
One thing we should have mentioned was one complicating factor with honeyberries is that they turn purple and look ripe about 3 weeks before they actually ripen. And the best way to tell if they're ripe is to cut them open or bite them in half. And if they're purple inside, they're ripe. And if they're still green inside, they're not ripe.
And if you don't want to eat all your berries before they're ripe, just gently pulling first. If it doesn't come off easy, don't even bother cutting it open
Except
yet.
there's a lot of variability with how hard they pick from one variety to another. So you can't rely on that one.
But it helps.
The inside color is reliable for judging ripeness.
Yep.
Good. Very good to know. There's a question in the comment box. How old are the bushes that you're harvesting?
I think they've been in the ground for 3 years.
Okay.
Wow.
And let's see, one other question I had. Oh, do you want to say anything about the sheep before we look at the video of that?
Yeah, well, we found out that sheep do really like to eat honeyberry bushes, and we're going to be experimenting with some things to try and discourage that. And we're trying various deer repellents to keep sheep from eating honeyberries while they're in a paddock that includes honeyberries.
Now, Tom, if the bushes were dormant, did the sheep eat on the dried dead leaves?
No, they nibbled a little bit on dormant branches, but didn't do much damage. But on the
actively growing
bushes, they stripped every leaf.
So you can easily have the sheep in a paddock with dormant honeyberries. It's just when they're growing that you got to take some precautions.
Okay. One more question before we roll the video to see the sheep.
Yay! Questions!
Did you find that you have uniform ripening on your bushes, or is it sort of that you need to revisit non-uniform?
I guess they're comparable to other bushes like blueberries and raspberries, and that the berries do not all ripen at the same time. So although they're not quite as spread out as blueberries are. So we might have to revisit a bush once or twice after the initial harvest.
Okay. And do you find the shaking to be the most sort of effective harvest technique?
Not according to our son, no.
Okay.
Well, that remains to be seen. What you saw was our very first attempt at it with the machine. But I think that machine harvesting will probably
when they're
work
big.
well, but yeah, it's not really practical to do that until they're a little bit bigger.
All right. Well, Salih, let's go ahead and play some more of the video.
So that is a bush that got hit by the Katahdin sheep early. That one was protected by fencing. So you can see how much they.
So here we have an example of a bush that got hit last month by sheep who grazed on the parts outside of the mesh shelters. They're recovering very slowly. And in the future, we will try spraying these guys with a mixture of plant skid, egg, and maybe sheep manure.
And these are very young plants. Like this entire row was planted just last year, about a year ago. Even this big one down here was just planted 1 year ago.
So that's 1 year, one summer's growth in the dirt?
Yeah.
How big or how old was the plant when you put it in the ground?
It was probably a year old when we planted it.
And how,
It was this tall this spring. So all this growth is just from this spring.
wow, that's pretty impressive. And it obviously is getting a little bit of shade where it's growing.
Yeah.
So it seems to be okay with that.
Well, shade is kind of sparse.
It is sparse. And it was sparse last year too.
Yeah.
And that is a chestnut tree that's gone through some harsh weather.
There should have been a lot more shade on that plant.
You guys want to part the... Yeah.
Already fledged.
As we can tell, because there's poop inside.
And red-winged blackbirds are our friends here because they don't eat berries, but they chase away birds that do eat berries.
So we're very happy about that.
If it was from this year or last.
Looks like this year's. Yeah, this definitely wasn't here last year.
So
Or this spring.
the blackbirds would have kept robins away and catbirds away from these
Brown
bushes.
thrashers.
Yeah, because there's a lot of birds who like to eat these berries. And as you can see, we do not net our bushes because we have them interplanted so much. It would be very difficult. So we have to rely on things like the berries being hidden by the bushes and our friends, blackbirds. We really try to encourage blackbirds, which is one reason down over that way there is a wetland planted.
There,
There's
that
another
way.
red-winged blackbird nest in a honeyberry bush.
Oh, and I just heard one call from over that way. It's a kerchee. Cool. And of course, they're not going to do it again.
All right, so we've reached the end of the video. There's some more questions in the comment box I'd like to ask you guys.
Okay.
What the mesh shelters, do you keep them on for the first 3 years? How long do you keep them on, and what kind of stakes are you using?
We keep them on forever, and we're using bamboo stakes. The bush will
No.
grow through the mesh.
I started using bamboo stakes, but I've switched to using 3/8 inch fiberglass electric fence stakes instead because the bamboo rots away pretty quick.
But you just leave the mesh on.
The mesh eventually deteriorates in the photo degrades in the sunlight, but we do not take them off.
Okay,
So the core of the bush is constantly protected.
okay. And do you use any fertilizer? Did you use any fertilizer on these bushes when you started them out, or anything over
We
the top?
have never used any fertilizer.
Would it help if we had?
It might.
You could see we had variable growth. Some bushes were growing great, some were just struggling along. So weed control is most important, but a little fertilizing, especially something organic. We always found chicken manure, composted chicken manure, something that trees and bushes seem to really like.
And I saw that you had attempted to plant in the shade of what would have been a healthy chestnut for some of the honeyberry bushes. Are you doing
Yes.
any sort of sun-shade comparison, or are they all kind of shade planted?
We did do some comparison. We planted some under the shade of black walnut trees, some under the shade of large, mature, healthy chestnuts, and some out in direct sun. And we seem to be getting the best growth from the ones in the shade of the chestnuts. But it remains to be seen how productivity will compare. And of the 30 we planted under black walnuts, 30 of them died. So I think we can conclude that honeyberries do not like being planted around black walnuts.
And the
Yeah.
berry bushes that you saw that the sheep had grazed on, those were in full sun.
Okay. And are you planning to interplant anything around them that will shade them, or just going to continue and see how they develop in the sun?
Well, we do have some pecans planted in the area where the bushes were planted in full sun, but it will probably be a decade or two at least before the pecans get big enough to shade the honeyberries.
Okay. We have a few minutes left, and I'm caught up in the questions. Is there anything else from the videos that you wanted, or not from the videos, that you wanted to share with folks?
Don't use the word has cap when you're marketing honeyberries. Doesn't sound as good as honeyberries. Honeyberries sounds like something you want to eat. And as Tom would say, has cap sounds like the lid of some hazardous waste collection unit. So say honeyberries. Good. And they are good. They
When
are
I was
good.
when I was forcefully picking underripe berries a few days ago, we were wondering why they were called honeyberries because they were quite tart. But now that some of them have ripened up, they are pretty good.
Yeah, they're called honeyberries because the bushes they grow on are honeysuckle bushes.
Yeah.
And
But
can you explain? Are they? Go ahead, Kathy.
they're not invasive. I mean, they are a native. The honeyberry is a native to
They're
northern,
Midwest native.
but it's one you have to pamper along. As you've seen, they won't be invasive like that honeysuckle that is invading the woodlands throughout Iowa.
Yeah, the invasive honeysuckles are non-native from Eurasia. The honeyberries are native honeysuckles.
So
Yeah,
think of it
these
as
are-
a good honeysuckle.
Yeah, so this is a cultivated variety of a native honeysuckle that is not
Yeah.
invasive.
Yep. Yep.
Excellent.
Taking a
people
native,
are-
improving it.
Great. And when's the best time of year to plant these?
Well, when the ground is not frozen solid, although I would not recommend planting them after mid to late September unless you mulch them really well. But if you are willing to mulch them well, you could plant them right up until the ground freezes solid.
And
So-
Honeyberry USA sells potted plants, right?
Yes.
So and I think they ship year round. Well, not year round, when they have the plants available. So you could order some, plant them this fall if you'd like. At least a small planting so you can experiment with them. But control the
Spring-
weeds.
Spring through fall is an okay time to plant?
Yes.
did you
Spring through early fall.
Okay. And did you start with potted plants, or are there also bare roots available?
I don't know of anybody that supplies bare root honeyberries. Everything I'm familiar with is potted.
And Tom's not getting into it, but once you find a variety that you like, you could actually propagate it yourself because they do propagate via cuttings. You have to experiment. It's not as easy as elderberries, but don't sell those because the buying of the plant helps fund the research being done. So buy as many plants. I'm getting a crown right now. So buy lots of plants. You're funding research.
One thing we forgot to mention is honeyberries are not self-fertile, so you do have to plant pollen compatible varieties. They need to flower at the same time, and they also need to be not too closely related. So full siblings or half siblings will not pollinize each other, even if their flowering is in sync. And for that reason, certain groups of honeyberries are planted together, such as the boreal beast is planted as the pollinizer for boreal blizzard and boreal beauty. And then honeybee and aurora are compatible pollinizers for each other also.
Okay, fantastic. Well, we're getting close to the end of our time. I just want to give you an opportunity to say what your hours are if people decide to come down and visit your farm. Are you open for U-Pick this year?
We will be this fall for pawpaws, persimmons, and such, but we're still asking people to call ahead and schedule a day when they want to come because we try to, especially with COVID-19, we're spacing people out so not too many people in the orchard at the same time. And we say it's the healthiest way you can get fruit and nuts because you're out there in the sunshine, everything's being sanitized by the sunshine. So give us a call or an email and we will let you know what U-Picks are going on, and watch our Facebook page.
Oh, great. So folks, if you are headed to Southeast Iowa or want to make a plan to get there and can do it in a safe manner, Red Fern Farm will be open this fall, and you can check out their Facebook and their website. And we're reaching the end of our time here. We will see more of Tom and Kathy in a couple weeks when we come back, and we'll learn about some of their other crops, including cornelian cherries, Asian pear, American persimmon, pawpaw, and chestnuts. And again, in the meantime, check out their website, follow them on Facebook, And you can also find PFI on Facebook and check out the rest of our virtual events. I think Celise in the comment box has posted the link to the evaluation for this field day. Please fill that out if you're watching, and you'll be entered to win a PFI water bottle. And more importantly, we'll get your feedback. Tom and Kathy, thank you so much for your time today. And I really look forward to talking with you again in a few weeks.
You're welcome.
It was a pleasure.
All right. Well, Celise, I'll let you close us out. So long, everybody.